Hey, we've got another Reddit story for you. This one is actually all over Reddit and a bunch of different subreddits, and it is my mother-in-law was poisoning me, then I found out why. Everyone has their own nightmare in-law story, though I couldn't imagine how bad mine would be. As it turns out, the worst thing wasn't my mother-in-law poisoning me, the worst thing was why she did it. I met Craig on one of my rare vacations. We had sort of a whirlwind relationship. We fell hard for each other and we were married in a courthouse wedding within 2 months without ever meeting each other's families. Mine visited a few weeks later and after the initial shock, really liked Craig. While we got moved in together and figured out married life, I got to hear more about his parents who lived near the rest of his extended family and a few hours away, though we never saw them. My work schedule is rough. I work 6 to 7 days a week and my off days are a blur of appointments and errands. I think in the 2 years before I met Craig, I only left the city once. I finally got a few days off so we could head to visit his family about 6 months later. His whole family came over and everyone seemed thrilled to meet me, except for his mom, Betsy. She was cold and distant and could sit there without saying a single word to me. It was creepy, but I kept trying to spark up conversation. On our last day, he announced that we should take an afternoon hike up into the national park their house sat on the edge of. Betsy made lunch and I was changing to go out when it hit me, just waves of nausea. I wound up in the bathroom for hours that afternoon. I figured it was just a touch of something and thought nothing of it. We went back a few months later and again had a great time except for Betsy. She wouldn't talk to me though. Craig brushed it off and said she's just getting to know me. He finally said we could rent jet skis the next day and explore a lake in the next town as a way to get out of the house and unwind, which made me feel better. I was so excited to tell everyone that we were going, but it wasn't to be. After eating, I got so sick I could barely walk for the next 2 days. At this point, I started to get suspicious. No one else was sick, and we all ate the same food. It seemed like Betsy must have been up to something, but it wasn't until our next visit when a night in a romantic cottage, another hour up the road was canceled due to me getting sick that I was sure Betsy was poisoning me. Craig said I was insane. He said it must be an allergy to something his mom used in her cooking, which actually made sense, though I have never had time for an appointment to get it checked out. Still, I decided on the next trip that I'd make a big casserole and bring it with us. If I cooked the food and served it, nothing could be added. Well, I hadn't had 2 bites before I realized I had left the wine I was drinking unattended while I was heating up the casserole, and my stomach was already doing flips. You know what happened next, and it wasn't pretty. I was so sure his mom was poisoning me, and I confronted Craig about it. I told him I wouldn't visit his family again if she was there. It was our first big fight, but he finally said he wouldn't force me to visit, and we could figure out how to best deal with the situation. She had never been nice to me, so it wasn't a loss. The next time I got off, we decided we'd head to that little cottage we had rented before and not been able to use. We were driving right past his family place and it seemed rude to not stop, so we compromised and bought some pizzas. I even decided just to not drink anything unless it was water from the tap. We got in and threw pizza on our plates when one of his cousins arrived and everyone briefly left the food unattended. I realized my mistake almost immediately and decided to try an experiment. Craig and I both had 2 slices, so I just switched our plates while everyone was in the next room. Craig was so sick I was really worried about him. The drive to the city was awful. We had to pull off a lot, and he was a mess. We had been back home for 3 days before I broke down and told him I had switched the plates. I've never seen such anger before. The rage in his eyes is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. He shoved me into a wall, then came flying at me. He threw me over the couch, but somehow I managed to grab my keys and phone and ran out of the door, not even wearing shoes. Wait, why would he be pissed at her?
Oh, just wait.
Oh, you'll see.
I got lucky with the elevator and made it to a friend's place safely, finally turning off my phone after I missed his 47th call. I had no idea what to do or when it would be safe to go home. It was the scariest time of my life. It was 2 days before I turned my phone back on when I heard the messages from the police. I drove upstate immediately. Craig was dead. Betsy had shot him after he broke into her house and charged at her with a knife. I learned that Craig had been married once before and his wife had died on a tragic hiking accident. Craig made a lot of money in the life insurance payout, and Betsy always suspected Craig had killed her and was nervous about letting him be alone with me, especially out in the remote area he was so familiar with from his childhood. So she ensured that every time he planned an outing that I would be sick. It wasn't easy, but she didn't think I would believe her, as no one else had ever shared her suspicions about Craig. I found the life insurance policies he took out on me without my knowledge afterwards, and I refused to press charges against Betsy. She was only trying to protect me. I still visit her from time to time when I need to get out of the city. I love her cooking.
Holy plot twist, Batman.
That was very plot twisty. So where I thought it was going is that he was enraged that his mother would do this because now it all made sense, and now he would finally believe her. But yeah, that's a huge plot. This is a movie plot.
That's what I was going to say.
Really is.
I was like, Netflix or Lifetime, please.
At least a
Please
dateline.
pick
We
this up.
need a dateline out of this. Like,
I want to say this story
Oh.
was a couple years old. I can't remember if it was just posted or if it was just like resurrected on Reddit.
it was not where I thought this story was going. Like when I started reading it, I was like, oh, there's some weird shit going down between mother and son, weird mother-in-law, like something's not right. And then, yeah.
But I love that she still spends time with Betsy. Like this crazy, crazy thing bonded them together for life. And that's
like,
so
this is crazy.
I'm like, so did he take out his first wife?
Well, obviously, clearly.
It's crazy. Ugh.
I mean, he was trying to do the same stuff with her. Like, oh, let's go on a hike up in the mountain that he knows has been on before. And like, oh, let's go out to on jet skis on a lake out in the middle of nowhere. And oh, hey, happen to have these life insurance policies on them too. Like,
Also, this is, I know narcissist gets thrown around a lot, but the whirlwind romance to me says that he he knows how to love hard and get people to fall in love with him. So that he has control over the situation.
Love bombs them into submission.
For sure. So she felt probably like this crazy amount of love coming from this man. And it's hard when you're treated like that not to fall back in love with them. So I don't know.
So, okay, here's an interesting possibility. He took out the life insurance policies on her. Without that, take that out of the equation. This very much still could have been he's enraged that his mother would do this. Went to confront her. She killed him, made up the rest of the story to prevent herself from getting in trouble.
Ooh.
oh,
Further plot twist.
And what if, take that even a step further, put the life insurance policies back in. She took it out in his name.
There's your Netflix movie.
I was going to say now
double
we're
twist.
entering Netflix territory here.
It's a double twist. So they've been friends this whole time, but or she befriended her now, but later finds out that she was doing the poisoning for other reasons.
And it's like the 5 years later.
Yeah.
That's when she figures out that it actually happened, that it was actually the mom.
Yep.
This is a movie.
Mm-hmm. I think we just wrote the script.
I think we did.
I'm down.
Yeah, it's wild.
You're
People
welcome,
are-
Netflix.
Yeah.
This might be the mother-in-law story that takes the cake.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
See what you did there?